So for the first question, um, to start, could you briefly introduce yourself and share a bit about your background prior to beginning this internship?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Celine. I am currently a senior at UCLA studying neuroscience. So I was in my final quarters when I joined this internship, and I was I was able to find this internship through just also like word of mouth. There's us other UCLA students who participated in it, and I thought it was interesting because I've never really done anything that's related to my major, and that's something I'm very interested in my career. So that's kind of where I was before I started the internship.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's really cool, especially you're quite far, right? You said UCLA, right?
Yeah.
So LA, yeah, that's awesome. For the next question, you spent a significant amount of time at SBNS Clinic contributing to patient care and reviewing various types of imaging. What part of the experience did you find the most engaging or eye-opening?
I would say the most engaging was definitely being able to be exposed to a lot of patient scans and cases. A lot of patients' cases were very unique. So learning this like large, like very advanced vocabulary in the field, it shows you like a little bit of being able to see what you read in books to like real life situations. So that's why it was really cool to get in to see that, and not only also on top of what you see in patient cases, but working with the team because you don't realize how much work gets put into what makes a clinic run smoothly until you're actively a part of it. And even though like I was remote, I feel like I still got a good amount of insight into how a clinic functions. So I'm sure it's like a lot cooler to be in person.
Yeah, whenever we get an intern, we always encourage in person. I think it's instrumental to get hands-on experience, and
Yeah.
it brings another level of I don't know, knowledge and hands-onness from the experience. But being a remote,
Mhm.
I think you touch on a lot of things where you start understanding the responsibilities, the amount of duties that go into an internship, that go
Yeah.
into a private practice, and so I think that's one of the best things I've also gathered from the internship too, from being in
Mhm.
person. So that was really cool to hear. Question three, you had the opportunity to engage in telemedicine and patient follow-up calls. How do you feel your communication and clinical reasoning skills evolved through those interactions?
Doing my first telehealth, at first it was intimidating because Um, again, it was like remote, so I just didn't know what to expect. But being able to do that, I think it's cool because like what you notice too is a lot of these patients that get referred to the office, they are as far from the office, sometimes as far as I am. So being able to help them from a distance was really a rewarding experience to be a part of. Um, but I did enjoy at first too. What telehealth is like from what I've experienced is that your first one isn't always going to be perfect, but I think that's how you realize how important it is to communicate every part within when you're looking at these patients' charts. Because I know during my first telehealth, there's a few things that I missed that needed to be clarified. So when I did my next one, I improved much better after I was um, trained on how to fix my mistakes. So that was very like a supporting environment.
Yeah, I mean that's good to hear. I mean, the longitudinal growth is what we like to see. And I even
Yeah.
remember my first, telehealth, my first inpatient experience, and then from where I am now or where you are now too, right? You feel a lot more confident, you feel a lot more reassured, and although we still make mistakes,
Yeah.
I think it's still really cool to see that growth within ourselves. Okay, for question four, in what ways did balancing your intern responsibilities with real world clinical care shift or reinforce your perception of the medical field?
So I think I touched base on it in the beginning, but I didn't realize like how much uh stuff that goes behind doors of what needs to get done. Because I guess before I started this internship, looking at these patient charts, you think that they're already done for you. And I guess like that's kind of my perception of how it used to be done. Like, oh, like if there was consults, they would be in the chart, they'd be sent to us. But then when you're actually doing your patient charts yourself, like you don't realize that like, oh, I need to be the person to find those scans to get those consults. So in order for the provider, in order to help like these patients. So I feel like that was a learning curve. So that was really fun. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. For number five, it's going to be about personal and professional growth. So, reflecting on your 10-week experience, what would you say was the most valuable takeaway, and how do you see it influencing your academic or professional direction moving forward?
I would say my takeaway from this experience is that I feel like it solidified my passion to be in the medical field because you don't really know what career you could have like goals, but you don't really know if you really want to be a part of it until you're actually actively contributing to it into a team. So like being able to communicate with not only other interns, head interns, leads, or the provider themselves, you start to realize that even as being an intern, you do make a positive contribution to the team, and whether it is helping them from a distance in a minimal or holistic or bigger way, uh, that was rewarding, which is what a lot of people at first enter the medical field to experience because everyone knows it's a rewarding experience. So I think that is what like solidified that this is a career that I want to continue going for. And although there is still a lot to learn, and but working with you guys, it showed that despite the little mistakes you could make, you do experience growth within yourself and kind of like your passion being stronger over time.
Yeah, I think that was really well said, and I even feel the same as well. So, yeah.
Hmm.
For number six, was there any particular moment, patient interaction, or challenge that left a lasting impression on you? How did it shape your mindset or goals in healthcare?
Yes, so I would say an impression that will help me experience growth and fix what I've done in the past is definitely my first telehealth because during my first telehealth there was a miscommunication and it caused a little bit of a delay in the clinic where your telehealth are usually a certain amount of time, but my first one actually lasted a bit longer than that. And I guess when learning from that, what was challenging is at the time I didn't know how specific and how much detail you have to explain patients of what's going on. Sometimes they need to have all these resources that I didn't know at the time. So I feel like it was definitely um, the challenge of communicating patients through phone of what needs to be done. So I would say that that was the most challenging for me and that that's something I'll take with me in the future is to always hit all the points like A through C to make sure that it doesn't happen again in clinic because I understand that sometimes it gets so busy in clinic that these delays could affect other patients. So it's kind of like a domino effect. Yeah.
Okay. And then only a few more questions. We have, I think, around six more. What advice would you give to someone considering the MSK MSO internship? Is there anything you wish you had known before starting?
I would say my biggest advice is not to be scared to ask questions because I know myself that sometimes I used to be scared to ask questions like, oh, I'm embarrassed to ask this, or I think I already asked this question before, but I forgot and I didn't take notes on it. But I guess I had to learn the hard way in the beginning where I was shy to ask questions and I made mistakes in my charting, which I was seeing later on that affected clinic. So if I were to ask, and I did make improvement because whenever I had questions on patient charts, I asked immediately so I knew how to make sure that that chart was perfect for clinic. So I would say definitely don't be scared to ask questions. Like even if you like, because I'm pretty sure I asked the same question repeatedly, and I know that you, Natasha, had to show me how to make proper screenshots like at least like two, three times. So I would say definitely always ask, don't be scared because you will see improvement in that. And I know that even though I made mistakes on my screenshots for scanning, I did see improvement because over time I saw like you guys complimenting my screenshots over time. So it definitely does help to ask.
Yeah, I remember when you first started to, and again, everybody starts somewhere, and I started exactly in your shoes where I didn't know how to take screenshots. I don't know what the spinal cord was. I don't know what bones look like on MRI, and so, I think it's really cool to, analyze where you started from and where you're at now, and you can even see, we at you in the chat for constructive criticism or constructive
Yeah.
feedback, right? And then, they always say it takes 5 times, 5 reinforcements to really learn something, and so I think it's just integral in the internship. So I think you summed that up well. For the next question, what aspects of the internship were most effective in supporting your learning and development?
I would say the most supporting is out of your guys' busy schedules, you took the time out of your day um, to sit with me through Zoom, train me, especially during busy clinic days like mid-clinic day, you guys would hop on a call with me to show me how to do something. And you would even give me grace to take some notes during, so I could just recheck my notes. I wouldn't have to bother and ask you guys again. So I would say that since I did ask the same question multiple times, you guys were very encouraging and supportive in that aspect.
Okay, perfect. And then is there anything you feel could be added or improved in the program to enhance the intern experience?
Um, hmm. Nothing I could think of right now, because I know in almost everything there's always room for improvement. But
This
yeah,
would
I don't know.
be the way we teach, this would be the onboarding process, um, anything. But I mean,
Um, Maybe a little bit of the onboarding process because sometimes I was a little confused with the steps, and oftentimes like when there was like passwords to log into, it was incorrect, or you would need like a dual mobile kind of thing to get checked out. I think I was able to do that myself, but it took me a little bit longer. So I think maybe just a little bit of that, like to have someone walk us through the onboarding.
okay,
But other
cool.
than
Yeah.
that, like everything was good. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then how well did you feel supported? How well did you feel supported by the staff and fellow interns during your time here? Is there anything we could do differently to improve that support system?
I would say um definitely I know I touched base on this, but the way you guys help with the constructive criticism, that was very helpful. And I feel like when you guys would mention it in the main group chat, I feel like, it was so anybody who had the same questions, they could learn from it and learn from the experience on someone else's mistakes. And then from fellow interns who were onboarding the same time as I was, I think we were all supportive of each other, especially when we were trying to get off shifts or we couldn't finish a chart in time. We would communicate well with each other, like, oh, I need this, I couldn't find it, and or the login portals wouldn't work for me. I know a lot of the other interns were very supportive in helping me finish that prep when I was off shift or I couldn't, or I was having trouble on my end with like technology.
Okay, cool. And then were there any skills or topics you had hoped to gain more exposure to during the internship? During the internship? If so, what were they?
I think skills I wish I could have done was maybe more in person, but that was, of course, I'm like very far and remote. So I do know that when I first started out, um, I know Natasha had mentioned that if I had the time to be in the area, I could come in person to shadow observe. So I think that was the only thing I wish I could have done, but obviously with like schedules, distance, it was hard to come down. But other than that, like, yeah, I think that was the only thing I wish I had done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I totally understand how you feel too. I mean, the time we went remote and then the time we go in person, I think they kind of bounce, they kind of cancel each other out, but fully being
Yeah.
in person, fully being remote, I don't know, it's just different. And I think that you do get a different type of skill set being in person. But yeah, I think it
Mm.
was cool that you had the opportunity if you were, in the area or whatever it may be to come to clinic and see how it's done. So for the
Mhm.
last question, looking back, is there anything you would have done differently to get even more out of the experience?
I think something I would have done differently would be to opt into more telehealth to help with more clinic days. And I think that was partly my responsibility because I got so caught up with like prepping charts to make sure that they were done in time, make sure that clinic days were running smoothly. Because I know like when I first did my couple telehealths that I did, it really did increase my confidence in talking to patients, especially um, through the phone, make sure increase my communication with not only the patients but with the team. So I know that I think differently I would have done more telehealths than I did so I could keep gaining those skills over time.
Okay, that's all the questions I have for you. Do you have